my skin so gorgeous. We thank the life gorgeous. Thank the life gorgeous. I love the life gorgeous. Its torso is so tight.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Life Gorgeous, Craigers. This is where I share my magical life in hopes of improving your life. And back for more, one of my favorites. Always a joy talking to Mr. Positive, Kyle Theige. He's a Timberwolves super fan and also a podcast personality. Kyle, tell me if I get this right. You're on the Dane Moore podcast on occasion. You're on Flagrant Howls. You're on mine. I'm the only one that actually pays you, which is good.
Yeah, we got a couple different pods. Always good to be on Dane's pod. We get a little more nerdy, and then with Flagrant Howls, a little more fun. And then this, where we just kind of talk about everything all encapsulated into one. So I'm excited we're doing it now rather than maybe after, that Utah Jazz loss. So it's a good morning here for Timberwolves fans as you wake up to a blowout win against the Suns.
Yeah, my second question is about the Jazz. Let me go back to the amazing win at OKC with the bench. How many times did you, and you don't have to, you can be zero, but how many times did you rewatch the end of the fourth and the overtime in the next few days after?
I got probably too emotional about it. Surprise, surprise. But I said that those are the moments you wait years for. I know a lot of people probably had turned it off because you're down like 15 with 4 minutes left on the road against the best team in the league, or the best team in the West at least. So to have those moments, they don't come very often. So I had to go back and watch it probably like 6 or 7 times. And every time you learn something different about whether it be, Terrence Shannon Jr. or Rob Dillingham playing the longest stretch of minutes, I think, of his career.
Yeah.
Everyone contributed, and that was a necessary win, because without that, the last couple of weeks would have been pretty tough.
Yeah, my favorite thing is to rewatch the fourth quarter of a win, Wolves win, over coffee the next morning.
Yep.
But this one, I watched, at least 5 times. And you do see different things. You don't remember the sequences exactly, so you keep watching them. Well, let me ask you this. After the Utah loss by 1 point, where Ant had been suspended, Wolves were in, command of that game and then came out flat in the second half, third quarter. What were your emotions and what were your thoughts about our season after that loss?
Oh, I did not watch that fourth quarter over coffee. That's for sure. That's a low point, because I'd said coming out of the All-Star break that there was like a stretch of games. It was like Rockets, Thunder twice, Lakers. Those are going to be tough, and then the schedule gets really easy. The Jazz kind of started that. The Suns coming up with the Sixers. That you could kind of say this team had not a limitless ceiling, but they could make a run. And then they lose to the Jazz. And they do it in a way that not only, I think some of the guys fought and played pretty well, but you don't have Ant, and it's because of some immaturity stuff and throwing the ball and those technicals, so he kind of let the team down. So that's why the Suns win was necessary to kind of stave off a team that is probably the worst vibes in the league right now. But I was definitely, you got to come out of that Jazz thing being like, what are we doing? Like, they're not even trying to win, really, but they got young guys that try hard, and the Wolves just still should have had the talent. Donte was back. So that was a really bad loss in a season where they're stringing together a lot of bad losses, and they lead the league in clutch time losses. But I think the Suns game, hopefully, if you're an optimist, kind of rectifies that, and now you look ahead, and I think they play basically no one with a winning record in March other than Denver and Indiana. So it's there for them. But what will they do with it? Because every time you think them to go left, they go right, and vice versa.
Yeah, they've had a lot of inspirational wins this year. I remember on Christmas Day at Dallas, we needed a win, and we got it, and couple wins at home. And but I just wanted to tell you, when we dropped down to 9th and lost to Utah, I said, okay, just be prepared for anything. And the anything is, I guess the extreme, which is not going to happen, would be missing the play-in. But the other problem would be losing in the play-in and not getting into the playoffs. And, that's, I guess it's a reality, but I'm after last night's win, I'm back to saying, yeah, we have something special. I guess my concern has always been I need Ant to have help late in the game. I need another scorer, and that might be Donte. Because the other guys are just inconsistent, and maybe Donte will become inconsistent like he was at the beginning of the year. But Naz is going through a slump right now.
Yeah.
And then Rudy's going to come back. So last night we only had 8 turnovers, which is kind of my big stat. You know how many Phoenix had? They had 22.
They're the antithesis of watching a fun basketball team. They don't like playing together. You make them like rotate once defensively, they're done. I mean, Donte DiVincenzo was
wide
on
open
fire last night, and there were at least 3 threes that he took that there wasn't someone within like 10 feet of him. And it's like, how are you not rotating to that guy?
Just a quick question about Phoenix. Trade deadline debacle. They tried to get rid of. They wanted Jimmy Butler. They tried to trade Bradley Beal, but he said he didn't waive his no trade clause. Then there was Durant going to Golden State to get Jimmy Butler, and Durant said no. You can trade me in the offseason. What's the energy like there? It seems like it's broken, and it can't be fixed this season.
It's you have probably played basketball, whether it be pickup or during your glory days of like, you can kind of tell the teammates just don't really gel, and you don't have like a glue guy. I think maybe they thought in Phoenix Tyus Jones would be that guy. They have a couple nice role players, but I think their problem is their big 3 and Beal and Booker and Durant. They just don't really play well off of one another. They're all great in the mid-range. They can all get their own shot, but how often do you see them run like a 2-man action with Beal setting a screen for Durant? It's kind of like your turn, my turn, his turn type stuff. And that is, to me, just an old archaic style of basketball that doesn't really work anymore. And I think Minnesota falls into that trap a little bit sometimes too. Like you said, like, who is Ant's second scorer on any given night? And that's something they have to get over. But I love basketball. I know you love basketball, and watching the Phoenix Suns play it just really hurts my eyes because they don't love basketball right now.
Yeah. That was an amazing game. Great second half, great third quarter. Good to have Donte back. He's up there with my favorite player to watch on the team. Such a quick release. They started him before his injury. Do you go back to starting him, Kyle?
Yeah, you have to. I was waiting to come on this morning just to hear your thoughts on Donte, who was the first player in NBA history with 7 or more made threes and 5 or more steals coming off the bench. Yeah. He gave them a much-needed spark last night. And also, too, you go watch his defensive stuff, like the amount of times he kind of was the low man as a 6'4" guard and came over and got a steal on Plumlee, got a steal on Durant, just was contesting shots at the rim. Again, being almost my height was crazy. But he has to start because the Mike Conley thing, he will go down in Timberwolves lore as being one of the coolest guys. What they did last year, they couldn't have done without Mike. It's just not there, though. Like, he's getting blown by off the dribble by Grayson Allen, and that's hurting the defense. And then offensively, he just doesn't have that zip. So I love Minnesota Mike, but I think with this minutes restriction that Donte might be on, as soon as that gets lifted or avoided or whatever, he's got to be back in the starting lineup because he loves to push the pace too, Craig. Yeah. And when he gets the rebound or a steal, I mean, he forces Ant to take off, and Ant needs more of that because I think Ant still plays a little too slow for being a 23-year-old super athlete.
Yeah, one of my big criticisms that I've said ad nauseum is I'm tired of these guys that are defensive specialists that are learning how to dribble and pass and shoot. That's, I'm sorry. And that's Jaden and McDaniels, who's, playing well. And then it's Naw, and Naz will throw crazy passes and stuff. But Donte's a ball player.
Yep.
Great floor game, moves without the ball, makes quick decisions. Now, sometimes he'll drive and, throw up some crap or turn it over, but that's okay. He's not a NBA all-star, but he's really gifted, and I love that we have him on our team. So here's a big question. I'm curious to see what you say, but I know the Wolves fans are very, very curious to see how this unfolds. Do you, when Rudy comes back, do you start Naz or do you start Julius Randle?
What Chris Finch is going to do is I bet you he's going to start Donte, Ant, Jaden, Julius, and Gobert, and go back
Right.
to that. I think despite Nas being on an absolute cooler lately and just can't really shoot, his body language gets kind of bad, which is pretty normal when you're struggling, but you can kind of see it on Nas. I think Nas and Julius actually kind of play well together. Like I thought last night they started at like a 4-5. That was kind of
Yeah.
fun. But obviously Rudy has to start. He cleans up a lot defensively. So like it or not, for these final 19 or so games, I think Finch is going to go back to the starting lineup that really worked for him. But again, coming out of the All-Star break, I said that, ownership might be done now. We might have that cleared away. Players are all coming back healthy. The most important person in this organization for the next 6 weeks is Chris Finch. And it's not always who you start, it's who you finish with, but it's going to be imperative. And it sounds like the morning before the Suns game yesterday, Craig, that they had another team meeting. And that's what Finch said. He's like, don't be focused on minutes right now. Like, Terrence, you're probably not going to play as much, but let's all try to figure out how to contribute to winning and trying to make a run here. So that's what you want from your coach. Will it work? Will he pull the right levers? I don't know, but I'd be shocked if it's not a Gobert Randle front court to start this thing, maybe even tomorrow night against Philly.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. Mainly because Nas is struggling, and I'm not a big Julius Randle fan, but he is a presence. He sure played well last night.
He was awesome last night.
Yeah. Um, I know that Finch did say, which was music to my ears, that going forward it'll probably be a 10-man rotation, which he hasn't done before. Played 9 last night, so Rudy would be the 10th. You okay if Rob Dillingham's out of the rotation?
Yeah, I still believe in Rob. I just think he's just been jerked around so much, and he's a young kid, and he needs to put on a little size. There's times where he drives in where it's just a guard like that needs to be a little stronger with the ball. Like literally, like this is so weird, but forearm strength might be big for Rob to hold on to the ball when he's driving. If Rob's gonna sit, I'm okay because long term, I think he's gonna figure it out. A good summer league, a good summer to train, he'll be fine. But if it's Mike playing in those minutes, I'm open to either of those guys being like the backup point guard now behind Donte. Because again, the Mike stuff is just, when it's bad, it's really bad. So
Yeah.
I'm more excited about the 10-man thing, man. Like, let's just see it. Well, I think you and I are both pro Finchy, but I want to see it. I don't want the 8-starter mentality again. Like last night, Terrence played 7 minutes in, a blowout game, but at least Jalen Clark got double-digit minutes. But you got too many guys now that contribute to positive basketball that you can't just go back to the same 8 and the same 35 minutes for, your front court of Randle and Gobert.
Yeah, and I think you go in the flow of the game with who's playing well, who's hot.
Yeah.
Because as we know, when we've seen it, even the superstars, I mean, guys will go be ice cold.
Yeah.
And I mean, Rob used to come in, Dilly would come in and hit his first 2 threes at the beginning of the year. Now he's pretty cold. But I'm a Terrence Shannon fan, just to get technical, and it happened yesterday. Because of his offense, I moved him ahead of Jalen Clark, who I love.
Okay.
And Finchy did too. He put him in first.
Yeah.
I mean, but he has such a gift going to the rim. We don't know if the opposing teams are going to adjust to him, driving all the time. But he's pretty special. Didn't do anything last night. Missed a couple tough layups. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. I also wanted to ask you, because I get frustrated with the Ant-Man, as much pressure as he has on himself and how gifted he is. He still takes some questionable shots.
Mm-hmm.
And I always use the term floor game. But I think so proud of him for working on his jump shot. I just think maybe it's a thing the coaches already say to him, but the emphasis in the offseason is become a cerebral player. Just saying that might help. These are little tidbits. You can pass those along to anybody you want. But what do you think about Ant's improvement that has to happen late in the game?
Well, the one that just sticks out to me, and by the way, you were the first person on planet Earth to identify last fall, maybe, that Ant had changed his jump shot a little bit, and it's clearly led to him being one of the 3 or 4 best three-point shooters in the league. The stat for February, as we kind of turn the page to March, that really stood out to me was Ant took 10 free throws a game in February. And I just think that isn't a be-all, end-all, but it does kind of signal that obviously he's getting fouled, but I think he's getting fouled going to the rim. Last night against the Suns, you love this, I love this, 14 for 14 from the free throw line. It's the easiest points in the world. It sets the tone. It gives everyone a break. It allows you to set up your defense. So in these late game things, which is clearly the story of the season, this is maybe one of the worst. It's like the Wizards, the Hornets, and the Timberwolves as like the worst teams in clutch. Ant's ability to get downhill, regardless of who else is out there, right? Because sometimes it's harder when it's Julius and Rudy clogging the paint. But Ant's ability to get downhill and get those free points, I think he is. Last night was an egregious moment. You kind of get why he gets upset when he gets fouled on that potential dunk that ends up not even being a foul call, that they turn to a flagrant one. You kind of get sometimes where the kid's pissed off, but I just think he needs to continue to put pressure on the officials, put pressure on the rim, because that's the best way to just get points for a team that's still, Ant doesn't have spots. Like when you played, I'm sure you had a spot or two on the floor. It's like, okay, we need a bucket here. I'm going, left, right, get to the elbow, pull up. Ant doesn't know where those spots are. Maybe that left side three that he would hit against the Rockets, but getting to the line should be one of Ant's biggest spots, and last night you saw it, and it was awesome.
What do you say to him? What do you think they said to him, and what do you say to him about the technicals?
That's so fascinating. I think the ownership stuff, which we've talked enough about, but I actually think Alex Rodriguez is going to play a big role in this once the ownership stuff is finalized, because I've got to know him a little bit, and I think A-Rod has a lot of like, hey, I was the star of the star, but then I had these big moments in my career that were pretty embarrassing, and how have I turned around since then, and how do I deal with that type of stuff? I think he's going to play a big role in trying to get Ant to, whether it be the face of the league comments or just how he acts with officials. A lot has been put on this kid's shoulders at 23, and I get it now. Maybe he's not a kid. He's got a family, and he's making hundreds of millions of dollars, but he's not a bad person. And I think Finch kind of echoed that he's not an angry guy. Like, he's not one of those Dylan Brooks that comes to the arena pissed off with a frown on his face. He loves to build others up. So for him to lead the league in technicals is something that's probably fixable, but also definitely needs to be fixed, because I think, and it's pretty clear, they lost the Utah Jazz game because Ant wasn't there. And you can say a lot about the other teammates. It's like you still had a lot of talent, but with Ant, they win that game. And then they're probably the 6th seed this morning instead of tied for the 6th seed with two other teams. So he just still has some maturing to do. I think he's matured a lot since he was an 18-year-old on Zoom talking about McDonald's orders. But
Popeyes.
To be the face of a franchise, forget the league, but the face of this franchise without Carl now, you just got to be a little better. And I this offline, I like to swear a little bit too, but these kids come to the games, they want his autograph, they want to wear his shoe. I think he just needs to be a little better in that, and you can't hurt your team. Like the technicals against the Lakers, you were probably there. Both were questionable. You can't throw the ball into the stands. That's just, no one is going to give you a pass for that. So I hope he learned his lesson. He got to kind of lay low for a couple days. I know a lot of people were in his ear, but if he can eliminate that, again, it's just another thing of he can really become as big of a star as he wants to be. But that's a bugaboo right now.
Maybe it was something subtle even yesterday. I still thought he was too animated on the
I'm with you. Yeah.
Missed calls. But he wasn't. He was at least extending his arms. You can't see me extend my arms. But as opposed to right in the guy's face. You clap in the ref's face, it's over.
Yep.
And he would get too mad. This time he was putting his arms out like, what the hell is going on? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the master at drawing fouls. And he doesn't complain too much. He might look at the ref or something. But I don't want Ant to do this, but I just want you to know Shai will lower his shoulder and then fall away and put it up and draw a foul to Trae Young, all this silliness. Ant is so powerful, he gets bumped or touched or slapped, and the refs don't even call it because he just powers to the rim. He's right that he doesn't get called going to the rim a lot. Now sometimes he's ticky. He says hey every time, unfortunately.
Right.
So,
he does. And he's in the class right now though, or he's approaching the class of these top guys in the league, right? Like when the Ringer does their top 100, it's Jokic, it's Shai, it's Luka. they all get a superstar whistle, and Ant doesn't get that, but he also he really does, for better or worse, just hoop, and he doesn't want to do the flopping. He doesn't want to sell some of that stuff. But again, not to beat a dead horse, but you kind of get it last night when he is going for a highlight moment that would have, rocked the internet today on that awesome Donte lob off the ground, and he gets shoved in midair.
Yeah.
Luka doesn't get up there. Luka's not jumping that high, but if that would have happened to Luka, I think Bradley Beal would have been ejected immediately.
Yeah.
I think if it's Shea, Jokic, and they didn't even call a foul in the moment. They said out of bounds on Ant. So you get his frustration. He's not being protected. But I was talking to Dane Moore about this. I just think that the team, this includes Finch, their perspective on officiating needs to be, it can't be there are enemies. It kind of needs to be like there are colleagues, for better or worse, because you do need to work with them. That's why you see Joe Ingles and Mike Conley during timeouts, like pulling an official aside and be like, hey, listen, he's a kid. He's trying to learn. But it needs to be more collaborative, because I think Finch hates the officials. And I think that kind of leaks into his players' minds, and it just does them no good right now. They're kind of like, the number one enemy for officials in the league, and that's not going to help you come playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, I would say whether it's an assistant coach or Finchy or, like you say, Mike Conley or Joe Ingles before the game, just say, listen, not complaining. Ant drives and he's strong and he gets hit and it's not called. He doesn't fall, act or pretend like Shea. So just keep an eye on that. Thanks. Hope you're doing well. Hope the family's good. That kind of like.
You love football, though, and it reminds me of like when Josh Allen runs out of the pocket. Like, he's just so big and strong that he's going to deliver some punishment, and he's just not going to get the same whistle and flag as like some of these smaller quarterbacks that know how to kind of fake it to an extent.
Yeah.
Ant doesn't want to do that stuff. I don't want him to do that stuff, but I also do need him to be respected more. You can't let a kid get pushed out of the air and be like, yeah, that's not a foul, and then it's a flagrant one.
Well, that play was so dangerous. Now, I'm probably the only Wolves fan who says, Donte, don't throw that bounce pass. Let's not.
That's fair. That's fair.
I just give him the ball and let him dunk or whatever. But fundamentally sound Craigers, purist. I don't need to see that.
Just lay it up.
Just lay it up. So I haven't talked to you in a while, but what are your thoughts on TJ Shannon or Terrence Shannon Jr.? We call him TJ.
I loved him when I got to meet him and kind of talk to him a little bit and watch him play in the Vegas Summer League last summer. I just think, it's super lazy to be like, that guy is just back up this person. Like Naz Reid was always back up Carl, or like in Jalen Clark's case, he's like back up Nah. But I think Terrence has some like backup Ant where he just gets out in transition and he wants to deliver punishment to you, and he wants to get to the free throw line. He was fourth, I think, in college last season, getting to the line, which is a thing that you and I both love, is just efficiency. Like, that is the best way to do it. So I'm really happy for the kid. He's also been through a lot, despite only being 24. I mean, there was some off the court stuff that was totally clear, but it kind of hurt him in the draft process, and then the whole jersey upside down thing during his retirement. And he just has handled everything glowingly. It sucked last night because I was like, how do you put him back in the box? And last night he was put back in the box, 7 minutes, had a couple of transition opportunities that he missed, but I'm just a big fan of him. And I still think for a Timberwolves team that you and I both really like, and we like a lot of the players, there's a lack of toughness sometimes. Julius has brought that back. But I think Terrence Shannon Jr. also, he wants to be physical, and that's a skill I want from my roster, because not a lot of guys want to be physical. It's a long season, 82 games, and he just wants to dish out punishment, and I love him. So I don't know where he fits into that 10-man thing we're talking about, but long-term, he's going to be a rotation player next year. He's going to be one of the 8 guys that gets minutes every single night.
Yeah, I think he should obviously be in the 10. Don't get mad at me, Kyle. He's an offensive force. My whole thing is play this guy. I mean, there's things he does that Naw can't do and others can't do on offense. But I'm one of those guys that play him like you did last night. Misses a couple layups, that's fine. Then take him out. Like, he didn't get if he makes those layups, he's getting more minutes. It's just one of those nights. That's how I look at it. Because so many of these guys, I mean, Luka Doncic he's ice cold sometimes, but he gets to play because he's a superstar. But these other players just see if they, if it's their night. And just a weird random thought here is just, it really bothers me when you're in a playoff game and some bench guy comes in and lights it up.
Mm-hmm.
That was Kareem Rush with the Lakers against the Wolves years ago. But it does happen where all of a sudden, but it can happen for us. Like maybe we beat somebody in the playoffs, and the Nugget fans or the Clipper fans or whoever we're playing, the Memphis fans are like, "Oh, TJ Shannon scored 22. That's a fluke." No, it's not. He's really talented, So I've always said, switching to Naz Reid, that the fans love Naz, and I like Naz. And I am surprised at how well he shoots threes. He just flicks his wrist and goes up there. And I'm always surprised he drives and he throws in these left-handed shots.
Right.
And they sometimes look forced, like he does when he's cold, like he is now. He definitely forces drives. How good is he? And I mean, how consistent do you think he can be in the playoffs?
What's crazy is that I woke up this morning, I was like, man, Naz Reid was bad last night. And then I was just looking at the box score. He was a team high plus 26. He was only 3 for 15 from the field, 1 for 8 from 3, but he did have 10 rebounds, led the team, and then he 5 assists with only 1 turnover. So I'm probably misremembering a lot of the good stuff he did, but I'm also remembering what you said, where he took a guy off the dribble going right. There's no lane to the basket, and he kind of throws it up there, and it was a terrible shot.
Right.
He's in his own head right now. I think he suffers from what Jaden suffers from and could just use, a hug. But also, some of those guys have to work through these slow moments by just continuously getting more shot attempts. So the Naz Reid thing is really interesting because I think everyone listening was like, start Naz, he's the 4 of the future, pay him all this money. I still agree with a lot of that. But then you watch Julius come in last night, and I thought Julius played just an awesome basketball game. He was efficient. He didn't get sticky.
Yeah.
He played fast. So it's a good problem to have right now where, okay, it wasn't Naz's night last night, although he led the team also in minutes. But we can go to Julius. We can go to Ant. We can do other things. But the thing for Naz that will be interesting to watch, and I think he can do it because he came undrafted and look how far he's come, is the same thing that Jaden's had to deal with. If Naz does get 4 years, $130 million or $140 million this summer, and you get that major pay increase, you kind of got to bring it every night.
Yep.
You can't really have these moments where like I'm 3 for 15 for a week. That's what differentiates, stars or building blocks from role players. And Jaden's had to go through it, and it was tough, and now he's kind of found himself. Naz is going to have to find, like he did last night, to his credit, ways to contribute to winning when he can't score.
Yeah.
Because 1 for 8 last night kind of killed him from 3, but luckily Donte was on fire and Naz did other stuff. So it's going to be a fascinating thing because I still think he's the power forward of the future and he's going to get paid. But when you get paid, your expectations go up as well. So
you mentioned it gets in his head when he's struggling like Jaden, and those guys, of course, are best friends.
Yeah.
Maybe Naz should hang out off the court with Joe Ingles. Go have a few beers
everyone
with
should,
Joe.
yeah.
Get mentally right. Let him straighten your ass out.
It's going to be fascinating. They got 3 big guys, and I don't know if they all work well together right now, Naz, Julius, and Rudy. But Chris Finch, again, to the levers analogy, he's going to have to pull the right ones, and maybe he's just going to have to not play Naz in a night where he doesn't have it, or he's going to have to not play Rudy. So it's going to be fascinating.
You mentioned something earlier about did you say a team meeting or?
I think it was just like, whether it be shoot around or whatever, Finch pulled them all and had like a team meeting, not a players only one. Everyone was invited, but a team meeting of being like, hey, I know we're kind of stuck in the mud pre-Phoenix win, but let's stay galvanized. Let's not be like the team we're about to play and splinter. And I think you kind of saw that last night and that little interaction. Remember when Julius saves the ball, leads to a Julius dunk, bench goes crazy, Jaden immediately steals it. The entire bench is on the court like they won the finals. I think that was a little bit of Finch's message of let's stay together no matter who gets out on the court.
I thought somebody was going to jump on the scores table and celebrate.
No one would do that, right?
Wait, what did you just say that reminded? Oh, that was reported? Was that a Chris Hine report?
I think it was a Chris Hine. Our guy Chris Hine, who's on the beat traveling around. He said that they had a meeting yesterday morning.
I had Chris. I'm having him on the pod for his book, his Ant book, his Anthony Edwards book, And I actually had drinks with him. He was in town for the Laker game. And we talked about Frasier, the sitcom. Anyway, so I have 2 more Wolves questions and then a couple drinking questions for you.
Got it.
And a couple TV show questions, and then we're done. Then we're off to our power walks. You're going to walk up in the Great Portland area. I'll be down here in Los Angeles, power walking, staying firm and tight and mobile and agile. Would you, Kyle Theige, trade for Kevin Durant this summer?
I've thought about this so much, like an unhealthy amount. I think they're going to do it.
Really?
But it's going to, they don't have, if you're listing the teams that could be involved in some Durant sweepstakes, by the way, Kevin Durant turning 38 here soon.
I don't know.
I think there's other teams that clearly have more assets. Like the Houston Rockets, for example, if they flame out early, they could be like, we have so many picks and some young players.
Right.
OKC could obviously be like, if we flame out again, you're the missing piece for this. We need that second scorer. But I do think it's going to come down to what Durant wants. He's 1 year left on his deal. He's shown to be I think moody character would be a fair description of him. So if he just says, he said the other day, I want to go out on my terms. If he says, I want to close my thing, play alongside this kid who looks up to me. Ant said it again last night. He's my favorite player, and I think he's the best player to ever do it. So it's going to come down to the price, right? Like, can you do it for Julius Randle this summer, the Pistons pick that you're going to get, and maybe a young player, Rob or whatever? But I'm not doing it if I'm breaking up like the Naz, Jaden, Ant core.
Okay.
And I know Jaden and Naz have their deficiencies, but that trio, is it as good, Craig, as maybe the Karl-Anthony Towns, Zach LaVine, Andrew Wiggins trio the Wolves have had? I don't know, but I watched that one get broken up too early to get Jimmy Butler. I don't want to do that again. I want to see what these guys can do, even if there's a ceiling on it. So Durant would be nice, but he doesn't. By the time Ant is in his prime, 26, 27 years old, Durant's going to be out of the league. Right. So I'm not giving up too much to get a guy that's a short-term potential help. And also, too, can we start talking about the fact that everywhere Durant goes, he's just unhappy and his team's kind of underperformed? Like, I love him, but I don't know if I want that energy in my team.
I don't think I would do it mainly because of his age. I mean, are we doing it for one season? Mm-hmm. I'm sure it'll be a 2-year or 3-year deal, but I just, I still want to do something. I need somebody else. I don't know who that person is. So I'm hesitant to do that. But when you mentioned, I totally agree. I wouldn't, it's so funny when you said, Julius, the draft pick, Detroit, and then Rob Dillingham. There are days when I say, yeah, I would do that. But I don't want to, now I've always been kind of lukewarm on Jaden, but I'm very pleased with his rebounding, and he does make a lot of shots around the rim. He has that soft touch. So I don't think I would do it. That's where I'm at right now. It could change quarter by quarter, shot by shot. What's your gut? Let's see. I know our schedule eases up a little bit. We play at Denver twice, though, to finish the season, at Memphis and at Milwaukee. What's your gut say? We make the top 6 or we're a play-in?
I'm always guilty of probably being too optimistic, but I just firmly think after what I saw last night and how Donte fit in and Julius fit in, the Jazz game sucked, the Washington Wizards loss sucked, the Bucks without Giannis and Dame sucked. But you kind of got to put that behind them. Obviously, again, I said they had this little team meeting yesterday. Craig, they play like the Sixers, the Hornets, the Heat, the Spurs, no Wemby, the Magic, the Jazz, the Pelicans twice. Like, there's no reason they can't finish in the top 6. Again, also, the Clippers have a tough schedule. They're kind of falling.
Yeah.
The Warriors, the Kings, they're going to have to play each other a little more. You wake up this morning, the Wolves are in, I believe, 8th, but in a 3-way tie for 6th. So they probably need to win. I think they have 20 games left. If they go 15-5, which is crazy, right? Maybe even like 13-7. I think like 13-7 even could be enough to get you a guaranteed 6 spot. And that's what you want. Because the play-in's always scary, but also, too, and you know this because your boots on the ground, I definitely don't want to have to play the Lakers in the first round. Because that team has 2 guys that get the opposite whistle. Yep. Actually, 3 if you include Austin Reeves, who gets a generational whistle. But that's just the Lakers team. I don't know how far they can go, but I definitely don't want to play them in the first round. I want them to be a little more banged up in the second or third round.
Yeah.
So you got to get top 6 because I don't think this team fears the Rockets. I don't think they fear the Grizzlies. I think the Nuggets are a different tier, but they'll probably tell themselves we've done it before. We won Game 7 in Denver. So they need to get to 6, in my opinion, to kind of keep this season from being, probably a major disappointment.
Yeah, they, you mentioned the remaining schedule, and that's where they screw up oftentimes against these teams, subpar teams they don't get up for, and then they show up for the really good teams. I don't want to play the Lakers. I know how the league operates, Kyle. I think we both
I do too.
I like, it's weird. If we played OKC, if we were the 8th seed and played OKC, obviously Memphis would be fine, I think. So it sure is fun though. Isn't it fun though? I mean, especially that run there, just to go back. It's serious time now. We got to get ready, make the playoffs. But that time when everyone was hurt and we got to see the bench and the young guys. How great was that?
That Thunder game, again, not to just glaze over one win in middle of February, but I've been calling it like a gap year, or hoping it would have been a gap year, where maybe you get off of some of the older guys and just play the young guys and see what happens. Let them have a year to get bumps and bruises. They chose organizationally, head coaching, whatever, to not do that. But you get these glimpses of like, what would it have looked like if Shannon Jr. played 24 minutes for 65 games, right? Like how much worse could they be? It's not like they're this elite team already. So I think it's promising that they have a bunch of young guys that are hungry and ready. Jalen Clark, like we're not talking enough about him, and he, for the month of February, was one of their best defenders. But for now, I think Finch, as he's done, he's a little more conservative of a coach as we're learning. I think he's going to trust the older guys to try to wrap this season up and go on a run. But there's no excuses, really. I mean, you can say all these ups and downs, put it behind you, 20-game sprint to the finish. You don't want to be the Suns. The Suns have the hardest remaining schedule in the league. I think the Wolves have the second easiest. So can you eliminate some of those demons, those bad clutch time performances? Don't even be in clutch time, Craig. Just go blow them out. Just go beat the Hornets by 20.
Well, that's the way to win, is to avoid clutch time. Should Donte have taken a little 10-footer instead of driving to the rim at Utah?
That's in my phone. That's in my notes. I wanted to ask you what you would have done. Because, yes, the answer, I don't watch Donte DiVincenzo. He does so many fun things. He is about the Swiss Army knife of, like, guards and what he does defensively. When's the last time you saw him, like, attack the rim and be like, yeah, I like that? I would have loved for him to pull up. Obviously, it's hard in the moment because
in the moment, he's got the momentum. He's going towards the rim. He sees an opening. I might draw a foul here. I might try, but to pull up, those are the hardest shots if you're not going to use the board. He's a little 8-footer in the lane. So, what was the other one I was going to ask you? Donte should have pulled up, and I can't remember what else I was going to ask. I think it was a crunch time question, but definitely, the Knicks, this guy Brunson, he loves taking shots at the end. He has that. It's like, remember how supremely confident Sam Cassell. So this is the next step for Ant, is when we need a hoop with 10 seconds left, we're down 1. Jalen Brunson is on fire. He's ready. And I know Cat could make the shot too. They don't use Cat all the time with New York. He doesn't see the ball. He still scores a lot. But Jalen Brunson, some guys are clutch. And that's a thing that Ant hasn't gotten to yet.
I think Ant's been through so much in his life that he kind of is like, I can do anything, which is a great skill and asset to have for your franchise player, because that means that any night he can go up against the best of the best and win. But I also think he just needs to embrace make life easier for yourself. It doesn't have to be this sidestep 30-footer. Brunson knows where his spots are, and it's not that complicated. They played the Heat yesterday, and you're right.
I saw it. I watched
2 minutes
the end
of the regular, the game, and then the 5 minutes overtime. Cat didn't touch the ball, and Brunson's like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get one screen. I'm going to get a mismatch. I'm going to attack it.
Yeah.
And he's surrounded by other guys that like aren't the biggest. Josh Hart's not a floor spacer.
Right.
So with Ant getting Donte back and spacing the floor, always having Donte, if you watched last night, he was always in the gap. So he would eliminate gap help. And if Ant got doubled, kick it to Donte and there's a three. So I just think Ant needs to find spots that he's more comfortable in, find ways to just call a screen, get a mismatch, and then attack it. Don't be too patient. But that's a bugaboo for them, because if you even flipped what their clutch time record is and gave them, 3 or 4 more wins in the clutch, they're like comfortably the 6th seed by like 3 games. So their inability to close is on the coaching staff too. But for Ant, who's the best player and the guy that's going to get a lot of those shots, either trusting his teammates or just finding spots on the floor that make his game easier, because Brunson's not taking those 30-footers. Like he's like, I'm getting to the rim, putting pressure on the officials, I'm putting pressure on the defense. I think that's the next level for Ant to kind of shape into a superstar.
I remembered my silly question. How much do you dislike Devin Booker? Scale of 1 to 10. 10 is hatred. 10 is Draymond Green. 9 is Jimmy Butler, or maybe those are vice versa. 5 is just average. 1, I love the guy. So what's the scale of dislike on Devin Booker?
He comes in on my power rankings of hatred just under Austin Reeves, who gets a way better whistle than Anthony Edwards. Austin Reeves might be the face of the league right now. But Devin Booker, just the body language stuff, he just doesn't like Jaden. He doesn't really like Ant. Apparently,
he doesn't. And he grabbed Ant's jersey yesterday a couple times. And he tried to hurt Ant a couple years ago in the playoffs. It drove me up the wall. And he's had arguments with Luka, with Klay Thompson. He's an SOB. And, his little car collection is cute, but he's got a bad attitude. And they're going to miss the playoffs, aren't they?
I would be shocked if they make the playoffs. Yeah. And if they don't make the playoffs, which it's very likely they will not, that's a stain on your resume just as much as it is for Devin Booker to like go to the finals that one year, which was great. It has not been the same for him. And for whatever reason, that team doesn't seem to have, whether it be Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Booker, when things were going wrong for the Wolves early in the season and Ant has called out his teammates after the Kings game or said, like, we're soft, we don't respect the game. That's leadership. Yeah. I haven't seen, and I don't watch them all the time because they're a bad basketball team, but I haven't seen like a Devin Booker leadership moment that would go in his book, right? So, he's just not a fun guy to watch. And I just love the game of basketball so much that I don't like watching these guys that just make it seem like it's painful for them to show up to work. And last night when the Suns got punched in the mouth, where was Devin Booker? Nowhere to be found. I don't think that would happen with Ant, who has clearly surpassed him now on like the shooting guard, 2-guard rankings in the league.
Absolutely. Drinking in moderation. I talk about it sometimes on the podcast. You're a young person. I'm really cutting down as I get older. I used to say 1 martini a week. Now it's 1 martini every 2 weeks, a little red wine on occasion. You're a heavy drinker. How do you handle it? And what are your drinks of choice and how do you discipline yourself?
Well, I'm out here kind of in it's not wine country because that's obviously down in Napa, but there's a little wine country out here in Oregon. So a lot of red wine, a couple friends that listen to this show, listen to other shows that have wineries. So a lot of Pinot Noir. And then the one thing I will say literally about drinking is that as I've gotten older, just eliminate all the other stuff in a drink. I know you've kind of turned me on to martinis too. Like my wife loves a dirty martini, but I just get all the sugar out. Like let me just drink stuff straight, maybe a tequila soda or a tequila water, something that just has no extra stuff in it. I used to drink a lot of UV Blue coming out of college. I don't know if you know what that is, Craig, but it is terrible. It is all sugar. It's like alcohol Powerade, but I also mix in a little hot yoga now. That's like how I stay young-ish, a little more flexible, and I just flush it out, get all the toxins out of my body.
So to hear that.
So that's how I'm doing it right now. But yes, in moderation, never driving, calling Uber, but a lot of red wine, and then every now and then like a dirty martini, maybe an espresso martini if it's the weekend.
I would advise, well, first of all, you said something brilliant, which is cut out the sugar. So when I was in my 30s, I used to have vodka gimlets, Rose's lime juice, sweet. Cut out the sugar. Mm-hmm. So just drink vodka. I have martinis, sometimes without vermouth, technically not a martini. I drink vodka over gin because gin affects me differently. I love vodka, ice cold vodka with olives or a twist. I used to do dirty martini. Women love dirty martinis, a little olive juice in there. Nothing wrong with that. I would eschew espresso martinis, way too much sugar. You don't want the caffeine.
That's true.
They're not good. But, and I don't drink beer because it's fattening, even though I love beer. So it's a little red wine. Used to drink Pinot Noir. Popovich loves it. He has an Oregon Pinot Noir. But I drink California Cabs, some Chianti, some dry reds. And that's good. I always say don't chase the night. Try not to bar hop too much. Let's get to bed, young people. Food, rest. There you go. I love the hot yoga. I love that.
That's been a game changer for me. So
is that a onesie you wear, like a leotard thing, or what do you wear?
Pretty much just like a little yoga shirt, some shorts, and just sweat out the toxins. I don't know what I'm doing in there. I haven't touched my toes since I was 16, but I'm trying. Yeah. But just to kind of sweat it out, get a little flexible so I can still play pickup a couple times a week. But that has been a good pairing with these nights of Pinot Noir.
Finally, quickly, television. Do you watch TV series? And have you ever heard of a show on Amazon that's been around? It was their first original series called Bosch.
No, Bosch. I'll write that down. Sell me on Bosch.
Well, it was Amazon Prime's first scripted series, and it stars a guy named Titus Welliver, who is an actor from the Boston area or from the East Coast. And Ben Affleck uses him in The Town, in Gone Baby Gone with Casey Affleck. He was on a show I didn't see on FX, Deadwood. But Titus is a very, very good actor, and he plays a LA cop.
Okay.
And there are 7 or 8 seasons, and then there's a couple more called Bosch Legacy, where he's a private investigator. It's going to end in March. It'll be the last series. 3 seasons of Bosch Legacy, 7 or 8 of Bosch. Los Angeles Police Department says it's the most realistic cop show. He's intense. My dad used to watch, my late father would watch Bosch. He'd go, don't cross Bosch. Don't cross him. He'll get upset with you. But they also shoot around the area in LA, Musso and Frank, Formosa Cafe, Dantana's. They shoot at all the places I go. But it's just it's a entertaining show to watch. You know, it's a crime show. It's LAPD. It's called Bosch, written by the books, based on the books by Michael Connelly. So
I just texted my wife. That's added to the list. This is low-hanging fruit. You have high taste in many things, but I just got to ask, because it's kind of the popular thing right now. Are you, Craig Kilborn, are you into Severance?
Oh, I'm a big Adam Scott fan, but I haven't gone a deep dive yet. I'm going to get into it soon because I like him. And he follows Kilby. We follow each other on Instagram, and he likes a few of my clever posts. So, and people are raving about that show. So do you like it?
I have a little less experience in all the going back into the best shows of all time. Breaking Bad would be up there. Obviously, I was a Sopranos guy.
Sopranos is supposed to be one of the best shows. Yeah. TV series. Yeah.
I enjoyed Succession a little bit, but I would say it's only 2 seasons. We're 17 episodes in, 2 seasons, whatever. But I think Severance is one of the best shows ever. It also has just a lot of cool cinematography. Yeah. It's just well put together. Adam, all the actors and actresses. It's and Ben Stiller, who is a diehard basketball fan. I know he cheers for the Knicks, but it's a really great show. So I would highly recommend, before it gets a little too spoilery, carve out a little weekend, watch some Severance on Apple TV. You will really enjoy it. It is slow for the first 2 episodes. Trust me, take my word. By episode 3, you're going to be cruising.
I'm proud of you. I'll see you soon during the playoffs, knock on wood. And I always enjoy. Thanks for being here, young man.
Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. That's our show. We'll see you next time. And remember, young people, I'm proud of you.